All right, so now let's do this last bit of the review. Labor markets. All right, so labor markets, this is a supply and demand type of thing. So we have an equilibrium wage, which means the amount that you get paid usually has something to do with, and it's just this, the demand for your type of work and the supply of your type of work. And your equilibrium wage kind of equals what the market price for your work will be. So the price here is the wage. This is the number, the quantity of people that are going to get hired. But equilibrium wage comes from supply of workers and the demand for those workers. All right, so since we're here, I'm going to skip down to the part on minimum wage because I've got a graph already. So minimum wage, skip down to that box. Minimum wage is kind of a government, this is the government setting the minimum a business can pay you. And every state in the United States has a minimum wage, and the United States actually has a federal minimum wage law. Sets minimum can pay for work in the U.S. And the idea behind it, the idea behind the minimum wage is we would like people to have what's called a living wage, meaning whatever job you have in the United States, you should be able to feed yourself, feed your children, and live in a decent home. Okay, so that's what that attempts. However, it is often too low. And we talked about this in class. And when they raise it, it causes inflation. So when they all of a sudden raise the minimum wage by $5, everything just gets more expensive. Because our country does it in kind of a dumb way where we move it, we kind of jerk it upwards about every 10 or 20 years. So on the graph here, what the minimum wage does is it sets this floor. It's called a price floor. We had this in another section. So we have this minimum wage, MW, minimum wage. And what winds up happening is we used to have this many people employed, but the demand for employment goes down because there's a lot of bosses, a lot of business owners that think, oh man, if I got to pay, I used to pay $10 and I got to pay $15 to all my workers. Sorry, 2 of you are going to have to go because I can't afford you anymore. So it can cause some unemployment, can increase unemployment sometimes. And this is really because the United States government does this, and we discuss this in class, in kind of this dumb way where we just raise it arbitrarily every few years, and there's no plan to it, there's no pattern to it, and it causes all this inflation. A lot of other countries do the smart thing, kind of like California is doing right now, where we're slowly raising our minimum wage. 3 years ago, it was $10, and actually 5 years ago, it was $10 an hour, and it's slowly bumping up until it hits $15 an hour. And shouldn't cause as much inflation, shouldn't cause as much unemployment than if we just bounced it up from $10 to $15 overnight. A lot of people would freak out and lose their jobs. So that's that. So that's the graphy stuff. All right, so back to the other things on the chart here. So this idea of earning power. And this is kind of an application of you so I'm talking to you as a worker. So your ability to earn money. Ability to earn money. And a bunch of things affect this. Your education will boost that ability. Your experiences your work ethic. Okay, will boost your earning power, and then also kind of the demand for your work. And we talked about this a little bit with sports. If you're the greatest basketball player in America, you're going to earn a ton of money. Okay. If you're the greatest ping pong player in America, table tennis, not as much demand for your work. Okay. If you're a really good, gas station attendant, well, you know what? There's a lot of those. If you're a really great cashier, there's a lot of those. There's not that much demand. And it also depends on kind of the supply of workers for your work. So if there's a lot of other people that can do that job, then you are not going to get paid as much. If there are very few people that have your skill, then you're going to get paid more, assuming there's a high demand for it. So that's what we talk about when we're talking about earning power. Next one was non-wage benefits. And this idea is, so non-wage benefits is really the things you get out of your work that aren't money. Sometimes it's kind of insurance. If you get your health insurance from your work, that's a non-wage benefit. Sometimes you can get bonuses. Oh, I used to work at a school that gave bonuses. It was pretty sweet. Around Christmas time, get an extra $2,000. It was nice. Wonder what that job is like now. Other non-wage benefits could be your environment. Maybe you really like the building you work in, or maybe you work outdoors and it's peaceful and friendly and whatever. Your coworkers are a non-wage benefit. If you work with nice people, that makes your life a lot easier. And then also, again, does your work make you happy? Make you happy? Does your work lead to happiness? Is it something you enjoy doing? And that gives you a non-wage benefit. If you can come home in the afternoon and go, I had a really nice day at work. That's way nicer than being able to coming home and go, work was terrible. And it slowly drives you crazy and you pull your hair out and it's no fun. So non-wage benefits. Last little bit was the difference between money wage and real wage. And this is a pretty simple distinction here, I hope. Real wage. And your money wage is literally just the amount you get paid. Right? If your paycheck says $1,000, then your money wage was $1,000. The real wage, though, is how much does your paycheck pay you? How much can you buy with your paycheck? And you think, well, aren't those the same thing? But here's the thing. If you are, say, making the minimum wage, and the federal minimum wage right now is like $7.25, I think. It might be a little more than that, but not much. And your real wage, it kind of depends. So when they first set this in like 2010 or whatever, it might have been 2008 actually, when they set this 12 years ago, $7.25 could buy some things. But now, inflation can cut into your real wage. If everything's just more expensive, that $7.25 isn't worth as much. You can't buy as much as you used to. Also, it depends on where you live. Buying things in Nevada is a lot cheaper than buying things in California. If you're trying to buy a house in Los Angeles, you're going to spend at least $500,000. If you're going to buy a house in Kansas, you can probably buy a house for less than $100,000. Same house, pretty much, in the same kind of neighborhood. So it depends on where you live and kind of the rate of inflation. So real wage, how much do you really get paid? Real wage, how much is that pay worth? And that is that.